to make a public concession in response to a social media post.
Public humiliation is on the menu here today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Mark Carney getting humiliated by a former ambassador to Canada. What he's done with the DST, pulling it out last minute like that off a social media post, is absolutely humiliating. It was the wrong move, and it really sets a standard around the world. It sets an image of Canada being weak. We also have a report coming from Global News showing that people are waking up to the problem of mass immigration, over immigration in Canada, as well as for Canada Day. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Mark Carney delivered a message, the most uninspired speech you could imagine. Let's jump into this. We got this one. It says it's official. Canada is now an LNG exporting nation. How many years did this take? The Gaslog Gasco has just sailed out of Kitimat, making the first shipment to market. A historic day for energy trade and communities that got us here. May there be many more LNG ships sailing from Canada. Next up, we got this one. Ontario Premier Doug Ford indicated in recent interview that he's not ruling out a bid to lead the federal Conservative Party. Get out of here, Doug. He's not going to be the leader of the Conservatives. He won't have the support of Conservatives. I don't think so. He's not a Conservative, therefore he's not welcome. Liberals can have him. Elbows up, Mr. Ford. You helped Carney, and we're hemorrhaging because of you and Jag. That's right. This guy wants to run for a federal party. It should be the Liberal Party. With Canada Day, we've got Mark Carney with the most uninspired message here. As this account points out, I've never seen a Prime Minister give Canada Day message as dull and passionless as Mark Carney. We're not going to listen to the full 2 minutes, but leave it to Mark Carney to talk about Canada being in a crisis.
The world is changing. Old friendships are fraying. Our economy is being buffeted by a trade war we didn't start. Our values are being tested by attacks on democracy and freedoms that we must resist. As the world becomes more divided and dangerous, Canadians are uniting. Together, we will build one Canadian economy, connected by major projects, powered by Canadian energy, transformed by Canadian technology. And
projects like the one China just got for over $1 billion. The first major project went to China. Is this how it's done, Mark? Or is it by bending the knee to Donald Trump, having awful negotiating skills and delivering nothing for Canada?
And crafted by Canadian workers. Together, we're breaking down barriers across this country so you can buy Canadian everywhere and work anywhere.
You do realize, Mark, that Canada doesn't produce a whole ton of products that aren't made in Canada. Simply saying our country can't function without buying international.
Together, we'll rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in our armed forces, because Canadian leadership is defined not only by the strength of our values, but also by the value of our strength.
This coming from the guy who wrote in his own book, Values, that Western society is morally rotten. So what exactly are Canadian values? Are they Mark Carney's values, or are they actually Canadians' values? That's the question here.
This is the greatest nation on earth. Together, we'll keep making it even better.
This guy has no passion for Canada, but then again, he hasn't been in Canada for the most part of the last 20 plus years. While he's born Canadian, is this guy really a Canadian? Does he identify more as a European or an American? It's so funny. I mentioned the book Values, and you got a guy right in the comments saying the same thing. You're a hypocrite. You literally talk about Canadian values. Your book Values, your comments saying Muslim values are Canadian values, and not to mention outright lies and corruption. History will show exactly who you are, a complete and utter failure while filling your pockets, period. You don't even know how many Canadians are getting their stomachs turned right now. It's funny, everyone's posting Mark Carney's book here. I fell asleep. Next up, we got this one from Global News that says Canada's internal government polls reveal attitudes on immigration.
Throughout the Trudeau years, Canadians felt the government was on the right track when it came to immigration policy. But that changed rapidly in the fall of 2024. That's according to a series of internal polls done for the Prime Minister's office, polls obtained by Global News using a series of access to information requests. Those polls show that in mid-2022, 41% of Canadians thought the Trudeau government was on the right track. So far as immigration goes, while 25% thought it on the wrong track. The internal polling shows that ratio held steady until September 9th last year, when just 21% thought Ottawa was on the right track and 50% thought it on the wrong track. 2 weeks later, Trudeau's cabinet got the results of another internal poll on immigration. 51% said too many immigrants were coming to Canada. 52% said Canada should cut the number of immigrants, and few saw any downside to a cut, with 82% saying cutting immigration would have little or no impact on economic growth.
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
10 days later, on October 24th, then Immigration Minister Mark Miller told the House immigration levels were being cut by 20%.
What we propose is a plan for controlled migration. We're proud of it. It serves Canadians well.
And yet, those same internal federal polls told Trudeau's cabinet cutting immigration might not solve housing or healthcare problems. Just 39% of all Canadians believed housing would become more affordable with an immigration cut, although 52% of Albertans believed it would. 37% of all Canadians said healthcare wait times would get shorter with fewer immigrants, while 47% of Albertans said the same thing. The Carney government has not signaled any major changes to the Trudeau-era immigration policy. Immigration levels will continue to decline over the next 3 years. But Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is clear.
The way he's wording it, decline, it's not declining by very much. It's still very, very high. Not like we're dropping down to 50,000, 20,000 people per year. It's still sky high, way more than we can absorb.
Clearly hinting that she may take some steps so that some immigrants might look to another province if they're coming to Canada.
No one complains about Filipino immigrants. Turns out cultures that can assimilate to traditional Canadian values get welcomed. Isn't that the truth? You don't hear anyone complain about Filipinos. They also don't treat public areas like a litter box. One of the major takeaways from that report is the fact that people are waking up to the problem of immigration, the mass immigration, not the good immigration system we used to have, the system that Canadians were known for the past many decades over both liberal and conservative governments. It's the one that Justin Trudeau brought in through the help of guys like Mark Wiseman, Century Initiative, all connected to Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau Liberals, are all wrapped up together. Mark Carney not pivoting away from this, Canadians waking up for this, and that's why you see Pierre Poilievre now doubling down on this. While he held the stance before, he's been speaking up about it more vocally recently, talking about the immigration needs to be brought down, as he mentioned in a previous interview, potentially to negative levels to get our country back on track. And that's the honest truth of it. Really, we need to cap out at 50,000 people max per year. And these should only be essential people that, say, if you have a child in another country, that kind of immigration, not people looking for jobs, not people trying to move here for whatever reason because they want to. It should be for very specific situations where it's unjust to separate a mother and a child in two different countries, that kind of thing. The fact that you're seeing the polling numbers now showing that this is the right strategy going forward. Mark Carney won't take that position. That's one conservative position he just won't touch. He said he's bringing down immigration a little bit, but if you look at the numbers, it's not very much. When you increase the immigration numbers fivefold and then you bring it back a slight bit, that's really doing nothing. It's not going to solve the problem. Next up, we got former ambassador to Canada, says we need to brace for the worst. And he essentially says it's a disaster how Mark Carney handled the DST situation.
What do you make of the decision to walk back the digital services tax? And now what we're hearing that these talks are back on.
Well, on the eve of Canada Day, I have to say it's a sad day for Canadian sovereignty. I mean, it is just one piece of legislation, but it's legislation that was chosen by Canada's elected representatives in the national interest, and it seems to have been overridden because of the dictates of a foreign government. And so any way you cut it, that's a loss of Canadian sovereignty. I understand that it may be important for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers, but we have to consider Canadian citizens as well and their ability through our elected representatives to take decisions that are in our national interest. And it seems to me that we took a step back with this measure.
Explain, why is this a loss for Canada, do you believe?
Well, I mean, the essence of sovereignty is ability of us 40 million people to take decisions to determine the course of our future. That's not subject to any foreign decision maker. That's
Oh, please. America's our biggest buyer of our products. We have to work with them. We can't just neglect them and just do whatever we want. We're a sovereign nation. We do whatever we want. That's not how the world works. We have to work with America because they quite literally fund our economy. 98% of our oil goes down there. So many of our products are bought by America. We have to work with America. We can't just be blind to this simple fact.
That's what sovereignty means. It means that we're the decision makers. In this case, of course, there's Canadians can change their minds. Our elected representatives can change their minds. That's why we have Parliament to discuss those things. We also have ways of, discussing differences with foreign governments and dispute settlement mechanisms, for example, through CUSMA. Neither of those were, of course, invoked in this case. The government just heard a message from Donald Trump saying that law's got to go, and that law went, and that is a violation, really, I think, of our of what it means to be a sovereign country. I do hope that this will lead to a better economic outcome, but of course, being prosperous and being sovereign are not the same thing.
How do you think?
Being sovereign, though, doesn't mean that we're an isolated island that just operates on our own. We have to work with the world, but not only the world, with America as our biggest buyer of our products. This can't be neglected. I should mention this guy here, former Canadian ambassador. He was an ambassador both during Stephen Harper's time and Justin Trudeau's time, for the first couple of years of Justin Trudeau's time. So he didn't just serve underneath one prime minister or another, but clearly this guy's politically left-leaning.
This will change the dynamics of the negotiations. Does it put us in a less favorable position?
I think it reflects that we're probably already in an unfavorable position. It's quite unusual in international negotiations for one country to make such a public concession in return for nothing, at least nothing made public. One hopes that there's a quid pro quo and that Canada will get something out of that. But of course, that wasn't announced. We just know that Canada made a concession on really quite short notice after a social media statement by the leader of a foreign country. And so, given that that's sort of poor negotiating tactics, it must be a reflection that we're under severe pressure. And I think we should really brace for what might be quite a difficult outcome when these talks come to a conclusion.
I mean, you look at it, this is political backlash from Mark Carney. If the prices of all these products that come from these big tech companies, whether somebody has an Amazon subscription or Google or Facebook or whatever it may be, if they increase the prices because they have to pay an extra $2 billion in this digital service tax, then that affects all the consumers. The consumers then are pissed off because Mark Carney didn't get rid of this law that Justin Trudeau originally put in. I mean, it's all the Liberals. It's all the same stuff. So there's a political backlash. There's economic backlash because now the government's going to have less money. They shouldn't have put this law in the first place. I mean, I mentioned it before. What if Donald Trump put this on Canada? We'd be all in outrage. It wasn't a fair thing to put in the first place. Canada doesn't have the power position to really demand something in return. I know Pierre Poilievre calling out for ending the tariffs on softwood lumber. That would have been great. But when it comes down to it, Mark Carney should have put together a big package that Donald Trump couldn't say no to. And it would make Donald Trump look like he's absolutely winning for America, and that gets a good deal for Canada because they have the power position. They hold all the cards. So really, it seems like they're trying to negotiate one piece at a time, and okay, you give up this, we'll give up this, and it's going on forever. I think they should have come out with a big grand slam and said, here, we're going to give you the 15 things. We want you to get rid of all the tariffs. We want you to drop softwood lumber tariffs, open up more free trade for Canada. I think Carney would have been more likely to get a deal versus how he's doing it now. Mr. Negotiator isn't getting a deal and is looking very weak around the world.
Might we be in a position to make more concessions?
It's certainly not a great precedent to make a public concession in response to a social media post 3 weeks before the end of this planned round of discussions. So I do think that Canadians should brace for the worst. We have got very competent negotiators. We've got a leader who's got a strong mandate from the people of Canada to stand up for our sovereignty. We've got a remarkable degree of national unity right now between the provinces, between the federal government, and up until now, quite a lot of public support for the government. So we do have a lot of cards to play, and we do have wise people to play them. But this was an alarming move. If we're going to continue the metaphor of a card game, this was a loss last night.
So he said brace for impact. I don't deny that. This guy clearly kind of gobsmacked that Carney did this. I don't know how he aligns politically, but it seems very clear he's a lefty. And the fact that you're getting this kind of reaction off of someone that looks like a lefty, what are other Liberal voters thinking about this? Was Mark Carney elbows up, or was he down on his knees begging Donald Trump? And just looking into this guy a bit more, it says, online, he's a centrist, he's a diplomat, so he's not one way or the other. I mean, my personal opinion, I think this guy voted for Carney. Regardless, you got to think a lot of people on the left are thinking the same thing as this guy. Carney's not sticking up for Canada. He didn't fight back. He didn't do all that stuff he said he would do. Mark Carney's been caught so many times lying to Canadians, as we see with the Mark Carney lie tracker, such as him saying Canada's economy was stronger than America's just days after saying it was weak. Moving ahead here, we got Kevin O'Leary going on a full-blown rant on Fox News.
Trump says the U.S. will end trade negotiations with Canada over their digital services tax. Canada was planning on taxing U.S. tech companies. Trump says he's not going to do that. Let's get right to Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful himself. Kevin, was Trump right all along on the tariffs?
So this particular tiff, fight, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, started in 2019 under the reign of the idiot king, Justin Trudeau. It was bad policy then, it's bad policy now. It's causing a major rift, a 3% tax on tech companies operating in Canada. This whole thing between Canada and the United States, the whole thing's stupid. There should be no tariffs in either direction. Here's why. These jurisdictions, these geographies are joined. You don't have to sell the country. You don't have to merge the countries. But Canada has all the power, the water, the paper, the minerals, rare earths, everything. And the U.S. has the largest market. There should be no tariffs in any direction, north, south, east, west. It's a unique situation. And you do that to create wealth for both countries to fight off China. We're in a war with China because China's coming over the north. So the whole idea of all this crapola is a waste of time. And so really, I look at this saying it's just more negotiation. It's irrelevant. It's going to get worked out. But the whole thing's stupid. There's still a tariff.
Yeah, this is what I said months ago. This is stupid. This should have been opened up. Just open up free trade. We should be building North America versus China, Russia, Iran. Fighting against each other is not helping us. And America is not the enemy. Canada is not the enemy of America. I'm glad that Kevin O'Leary is saying it straight here on Fox News.
Tariff on butter coming out of Vermont at 200% going into Quebec. How stupid is that? It's all stupid. It's all stupid. And at the end of the day, that's why they got rid of the idiot king. They put a new prime minister in place, and he's trying to fix things. But the Canadian economy has been decimated. Zero GDP growth, massive debt. It took 9 years to wipe it out. But the idiot king is gone, and there's a new guy now, and he's got to get this thing worked out fast.
The reason why there's 200% dairy tariffs is because somebody is making money off of that, and they don't want the supply management system to disappear.